In late 2023, Boss Pedals released the IR-2, a compact standard Boss stomp box sized enclosure. It contained 11 different amps and 11 different Celestion IRs, a bunch of different capabilities, and it could basically replace your amp on a pedal board and in so many other situations. This excited a number of guitarists like me greatly, and we diligently added these to our baskets and waited for the IR-2 to become available. Now, almost half a year later, in Europe, you still can't buy the IR-2. It's still not come out over here, although I think our American friends have been able to get their hands on them. But still, there are so many different options that this pedal offers for under $200 or euros that it's really going to be worthwhile to be added to many guitarists' collections. However, in spring 2024, Line 6 came out with the Pod Express, and this changed things again. At a similar sort of price point, around $200 or 200 euros, the Pod Express has a slightly different use case, but many different similarities to the IR-2. It's kind of a compact, all-in-one, yet very simple take on the Pod/Helix technology, and offers you all of your effects, amps, cabs, and so on that you would need in one simple and easy-to-use box. It's about this big, I would say, so slightly bigger than a standard Boss pedal, but not oversized by any means, and this was a hugely exciting thing for many guitarists, including me, and I diligently added the Pod Express to my wish list to purchase and to try. But still, at time of filming, they are not available in Europe, and I haven't been able to do that. I've seen many videos, though, with people comparing the IR-2 and the Pod Express, talking about the pluses and the negatives of both pedals, which one should you add to your rig, and well, I still don't know, and I want to kind of add them both. And I'd come to a point where I thought I was edging closer towards one of them, but then, lo and behold, at the end of April 2024, IK Multimedia came out with the ToneX One. And if you believe many of the huge amount of YouTube videos that have already been made about the ToneX One, well, it's something of a game changer. Now, as someone who's worked in the MI industry since 2010, so I've been around for 15 years in this game, I've seen many so-called game-changing devices come and go, but the ToneX One really does look like a pretty cool thing. Now, this is mini pedal in terms of format, so smaller than the other two, and it gives players access to the tens of thousands of rigs available in ToneX's software. So you can have amplifiers, cabinets, IRs, you can have drive pedals modeled with it as well. It gives you very many different options in terms of versatility and flexibility, and it's priced very similarly to the Boss IR-2 and the Line 6 Pod Express. And so that's what this video is about, really. I don't yet possess any of these pedals, but I've watched a lot of videos about all three of them. I've tried the IR-2 very briefly at an industry show and was quite impressed with it. But what I want to do today is really collect feedback from you guys, because I trust your opinions just as much as you trust mine, possibly even more so, and I want to hear what you think. Would you buy the IR-2 or the Pod Express or the ToneX One, or a mixture of all three, or perhaps none of them at all? I'd really like to hear what you guys think, your experiences with these three pedals, and what I'm going to do now is just go through very briefly and give you some of the specs and features of the three and the meticulous research that I've been doing, break that down into some bullet points so we can see what the three different pedals might offer us. So we'll start with the IR-2. Like I said, came out at the end of 2023 and is going to set you back around $200 or euros, depending on where you live. And the IR-2 contains 11 different amplifier models, some of them based on legends by the likes of Marshall and Fender, and some of them are Boss's own designs. Now, each of these different 11 amp models comes with a matching Celestion IR, which I think is a pretty cool thing, although if you've got your own preferred IRs, you can go via an editor tool and put your own IRs into the IR-2 instead. Apart from that, it's a very simple looking pedal, but it can be used in so many different contexts. I think that most players looking to buy the IR-2 will be using it to replace a standard amplifier in their rig. So if you're someone who's using an amplifier with drive pedals, maybe you're using time-based pedals in the effects loop, well, you can use the IR-2 in exactly the same way and basically take your large, cumbersome amp and put it onto your pedal board and have it in the same format as a standard Boss compact size pedal. Now, the IR-2 on the face of it is a very simple to use device, and if you take a look at the pedal, you can see that. You've got one big knob on the right that moves you between the 11 different amplifier sounds, and then you've got three concentric pots with 6 different options. 3 of them give you a 3-band EQ, bass, middle and treble, and the other 3 give you gain, level and ambience controls. Ambience refers to a bit of reverb, and you've got a choice between room, hall, or plate reverbs. These are not huge sounding verbs or anything like that, but they serve to give you a bit more ambience, a bit more of a three-dimensional tonality to your sound, and they're a very welcome addition to the pedal. Now you've got the standard Boss pedal foot switch on the IR-2, and what that lets you do is select between two different presets, effectively, a channel AB on an amplifier or something like that. The IR-2 will always save the settings that you've got when you switch using the foot switch to the other preset. So you select the different EQ settings you want, the amount of level and gain, the amp you're using, and so on. Then you press the foot switch, go to your second preset, do the same thing, and when you move back and forth, your previous settings will be saved and then recalled. Very simple, very easy. And I've seen in a lot of videos that people say you might want to have a notepad or something to scribble down with a pencil what settings you've got just in case you lose them. But it's a very simple solution. Like many two-channel amplifiers, two different tonal settings there. And then you can use the stereo effects loop to put your time-based reverbs and delays in there in stereo if you should so wish. And you can run your drives into the front. And there you have it, a setup that you can use for pretty much everything. It's got a headphones out, it's got a USB audio interface built in as well, so you can go straight into your recording software, and you can pretty much use it anywhere. It can replace your amplifier for gigs and stuff like that if you should so wish. It can be your silent practice device with headphones. You can use it for rehearsals, you can use it for recording directly, you can use it for pretty much anything. And I think that's why so many guitar players were so excited when the IR-2 first came out. And if you should so wish, you can deactivate the amp side or the IR side and either use it as an IR loader or as just the amplifier if you want to run it into kind of the power amp of an analog amp or something like that. You can also hook it up to an FR speaker if you like as well. So it's an incredibly versatile device, and it runs on batteries as well if you'd like to do that. Very, very cool, and you can quite easily see why so many guitar players have been so excited about the IR-2. Now, I think a lot of guitar players have been extremely excited about the Line 6 Pod Express as well, me included. Now this one is a slightly different use case perhaps to the IR-2, but it costs around the same, around $200 or 200 euros. And what the Pod Express does is give you that pod and helix tonality, but in a much more simple and easy to use box. And everything is there on the front panel. No deep diving with menus or anything like that. Everything is right there. What you see is pretty much what you get, except when you go into the presets that you have there. You can also plug your headphones in directly or use it as an audio interface and run it straight into your recording software as well. So very practical in that regard. Now, the Pod Express gives you 7 different Line 6 amplifiers and matching cabinets. And at time of filming, there's no editor to change that, so you can't load in your own IR cabinets or anything like that. But that means less to worry about, less to fiddle with, and it's all right there on the unit. You also have a number of different effects built in. You have a boost, an overdrive, a distortion, and a fuzz on the distortion control. You have modulation built in the form of a chorus, flanger, phaser, or tremolo. You have a number of different delays built in, analog, digital, tape, ping pong, and the delay knob also functions as a simple looper. And you've got a reverb control that gives you access to spring, hall, plate, and space reverb sounds as well. You've also got a dedicated tap tempo switch. There's a tuner built into this, and there are up to 21 presets if you want to have up to 21 different sounds accessible with a couple of deft taps of your toes. So a very cool device. You can build all of your sounds straight out of the Pod Express. You won't need to add it to a pedal board or anything like that. It's an all-in-one solution. So a very, very cool thing indeed. And I think it's going to be a top seller, and I can't wait to try one. If you've tried one, let me know what you think of the Pod Express. But the final pedal that just came out recently and is kind of the crux of this little comparison is the ToneX One. And again, I don't have one, but this is a similar size to it. It's a standard mini pedal in terms of format, but it offers you so many different options. Again though, a slightly different use case, and I think most people are going to be using the ToneX One in combination with their laptop because there are so many different things that you can do with the capture software. You can use it to capture your own devices, sure, your own amps, your own cabinets, your own drive pedals, but I think the vast majority of players are going to be taking advantage of the massive and ever-growing library of ToneX captures that are available online. Now, some of them you'll have to pay extra for, and some of them are free. And again, going into the future, there are just going to be more and more of these. Now, the ToneX One you can kind of use in so many different situations because it can be used to model many different parts of your signal chain. It can be used to model amplifiers, cabinets, IRs, and also drive pedals as well. So you could use it as any one of those things or all of those things together or a mixture thereof. of. So it could be your entire setup, or it could just be a drive pedal that you run into the rest of your rig or something like that. Now, you can run it in two different modes: on-off mode, like a foot switch, like a drive pedal or something, or in dual mode that lets you switch directly between two different presets, very similar to the Boss IR-2 in that regard. And while you can load up to 20 different presets within the pedal itself, it does seem to be quite fiddly to move between them, and I think a lot of you are going to be doing that with the included software. Now, the ToneX One is a very simple mini-sized pedal, but you've got lots of functionality out of the knobs there. So there are actually 4 controls on it, and they're all dual feature, and you have the LED switch, the alt switch, which is pressable as well. You can also hold down the main foot switch to give different options, different menu options, different programmability options, and so on. But just for the simple purposes of this little video, you can use the alt switch to change the functionality of the main 4 knobs. Now, the big knob is either going to be volume or gain, depending on which mode you're in, and the top 3 mini knobs are either your 3-band EQ, bass, middle, and treble, or they're going to be access to a noise gate, compression, and reverb. So all of that is controllable via the pedal, but way more detail and depth can be gone into with the software too. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be using the ToneX One as a main rig, and it basically gives you 2 presets to move between in its most simple form. In a lot of the videos that you can see so far, there are people using 2 ToneX Ones, one of them as a stomp box in front of the ToneX, but you could really fit the ToneX One anywhere into your rig, depending on what kind of problem that you need to solve. It could be your entire amp drive pedal setup. It could just be an amplifier, and you could run it into different IRs, you could run it into a different cabinet, straight into recording software or whatever, or it could just be a drive pedal. So you could get 2 or 3 or do whatever you want really. But in fact, if you're going to be buying 3, you might as well get the full-size ToneX pedal, I think, at the end of the day. You can also use the ToneX One with headphones directly, and it has a tuner too, so very many advantages there. And I think that this was a pretty decent summation of the kind of major advantages and a couple of downsides of each of the 3 pedals. And so I come back to that question I posed earlier in the video: which one should I buy? Do I need more than one of them, or do I need none of them? I do have to say that out of all of the YouTube videos that I've watched with all 3 of these pedals, and I know that that's different to playing it for yourself, but out of all the videos I've watched, I've yet to be 100% convinced by the tones of any of them. I don't know what you guys think about that, but let me know your thoughts. Let me know which of these pedals is going to be the best for you in your own personal use case. But I do think that stuff like this is really down to how you personally would use something. And for the way that I tend to run my rig, I often tend to have a clean amplifier, and I run a bunch of different drive pedals in front of it, and I will have time-based effects, reverbs, delays, modulations in the effects loop. Now, in that sense, I feel like the Pod Express is slightly less close to my standard use case, and we're probably moving more towards the Boss IR-2 being the most obvious swap out for my amplifier, and using the Boss IR-2 on my pedal board instead. But the ToneX One also gives me that option, and maybe a bit more, so I'm going to have to test that one out as well. And that said, I do really like the idea of the Pod Express as being a totally separate secondary practice rig that I can take with me anywhere and just use whenever I want it, with my guitar, with headphones, be totally silent, not annoy anybody, and it just works, and I just have everything there in one little box. So there we go. It's a complex thing, and after making this video, I'm still not sure which one of these devices I really need for my setup. Let me know what you guys think though. Let's get a bit of a discussion going. If you own them, tell me your thoughts and experiences, the plus points, the downsides, what you think is good about them, what's not so good. And hey, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.